Hi there everybody, Mr. Wheeler here, and I am creating a little video here based on the last little piece of analysis writing you guys did over the end, or the last section of Prose's I Know Why the Caged Bird Cannot Read. So I've just finished grading all these, and so there were some positives, and obviously, since you guys are pretty new to this still, some areas for improvement. And I thought, I made a lot of very similar comments on a lot of people's papers, saw a lot of similar trends or areas of weakness, and thought that it might be helpful if I created a little how-to guide showing you what you should be doing and letting you kind of see inside my head so that you know how this works maybe a little bit more clearly. Okay, so the first really important thing that you guys have to remember is that whenever you're tasked with analyzing some piece of writing that contains an argument that's meant to persuade, is that your job is to look at the choices or the very specific features of language that the author is using within his or her argument and figure out how do these individual choices in words, in figures of speech, in choice of details. All these things are deliberately included, and they're done in order to make the message of the piece stronger or to help the author accomplish his or her central goal. You have to be able to determine what that central goal is, obviously. That's kind of the central point of all of this. But then you also have to be very selectively choosing the particular rhetorical moves, and I keep using that word moves here to cover really any kind of little trick or strategy that's intended to help the author out, but you have to be able to explain how those individual moves are helping the author to succeed. So with a piece like this, at the tail end of Prose's work, she's covering a lot of different territory here. She goes on a tear about current literary methods, pointing out all kinds of examples, one after the other, of what she thinks of as inadequate teaching guides and lesson plans that are doomed for failure because they instill mediocre thinking and provoke, dislike and contempt for literature. So she's got all these various points and critiques she's making. In this last section, and I've got it pulled up here, like my version of the textbook here, she sort of shifts the focus here outside of just the classroom, and then starts exploring the possibilities for the rest of the world in the future if we don't stop teaching in this way. And her goal here is really to try to convince us that the ramifications of teaching this way are really threatening and dangerous and something that we as a society just shouldn't allow. So I'm going to open up a Google Doc, and I'm going to start responding to this, and I'm going to take my copy of the textbook here, put it on one side, my Google Doc on the other, and I just want to start drafting out how I might respond to this, how I might talk about the argument that Prose is making in this particular section, and how I might go about explaining some of the really important things she's doing, the moves that I think, in my opinion, are really powerful and really help to move the audience, and talk about how they help her succeed, how they help her convince this audience that, hey, there really is an issue here, there is something that really must be done, you should side with me. So I'll just start with a straightforward kind of thesis statement. Remember, I asked for you guys to just launch right into your thesis, no need for an argument, or excuse me, no need for an intro. So mine might go kind of like this. In the final section of her essay, I know why the caged bird cannot read. I need to give it context here to just indicate I'm looking at a very specific chunk of the piece. Francine Prose uses a range of rhetorical strategies. Remember, I said that you can list off specific kinds of strategies. You can say that she uses vivid critical diction or compelling figures of speech. But instead of listing them, I'm just going to use a blanket term. She uses a range of rhetorical strategies to do what? I'll say that she is, asserting, to assert. I'll say that she is trying to assert that current teaching methods, because that's the central subject here, is these strategies, these methods we use to teach literature, will forever deprive young people of the ability to think critically and deeply. And if you go through this last section, you see that she makes that point on a number of occasions. She asks questions about, what will happen once we send these people out of the world? Won't they be a lot easier to control or manipulate? Won't they be that much easier for corporations to use for their nefarious purposes? So she's really establishing here that there could be really serious, lasting consequences for the entire future generation. So I've established a fairly decent, I think, statement of the argument. This is what she's trying to achieve right here, and these are the tools she uses to do it. So your thesis statement should always do the same. Okay, I'm going to move into my first example here. And the first thing that I think is interesting is this very first sentence here, where she's kind of conceding, okay, you might think that I'm suggesting we undo everything, and that's not really what I'm all about. I'm not going that far. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why that's a smart move in my opinion. I'll say Prose opens the section by setting limits on her attack on the education system. So I'm just trying to frame my example here and give a basic understanding to my reader of what's going on before I get into my quote. She opens the section setting limits on her attack on the education system, claiming that, let's see, how does she put this? No one's suggesting that every existing syllabus, oops, spelling, not really my thing here apparently, every existing syllabus, and I'll kind of close my quote off right here. No, I'll keep it going. No existing syllabus, or every existing syllabus be shredded. I kind of like the term she's using. Shredded is a pretty powerful term here. She's saying, I'm not going quite that far. I'm not this rabid maniac bent on destroying everything. So I'll close my quote right there. No one's suggesting every existing syllabus be shredded. Now, what's important about that? Okay, now I'm going to shift into that saying and doing model. By saying this, and I'll sum up her strategy, and then I'll explain what she's achieving as far as the impact on her reader, how this helps get the audience on her side, and overall strengthen her argument. So, by taking a less drastic approach, or stance, she depicts herself as more reasonable, and immediately inspires more trust from her audience as a result. Put my comma there here to create a little bit better flow. Okay, so this is the purpose. This is what she's achieving and taking that more moderate stance. Okay, notice I'm trying to explain very explicitly what's going to happen on the audience's end so that they're going to take the whole message a little more seriously. Okay, moving on. I'm going to try to transition here smoothly. After de-escalating her attack, notice my transition here creates a link between what I said before and moving into the new stuff. So after she de-escalates her attack, the author offers a romantic description of literature as, and this is towards the bottom, right where my cursor's at right now here, guys, are urgent, eloquent dispatches. So I'm going to type her words here as such, are urgent, eloquent dispatches from the prison of self. All right, well, that's pretty romantic language to use to describe what literature is. Okay, they're helping us break free from the prison of self. Ooh, ah. Okay, so what's that good for? Why does she do it? Well, she's emphasizing to readers, again, making the direct explanation of impact on readers, its remarkable power to allow us to connect with each other meaningfully. Now you might be like, Mr. Wheeler, all you've done is really just summarize what the quote already says. Well, true. Now I'm going to start going into why this is important. Who cares? By stressing this quality, And if you can't fit all this into one sentence, you know, so be it. I mean, squeeze it into another sentence. By stressing this quality that it has, Prose reminds her reader of what is lost when literature is taught poorly. So look at the great potential it has. It can break us free from the prison of self. Oh, that's so great, but we're not teaching literature that way. So when she reminds us of this, it reminds us of what we're losing, and it instills a greater sense of urgency to reform the system. So bottom line, I think she's doing this as a way of showing us, look how amazing things could be. Look what kids could take from literature, but, oh wait, we're doing it wrong. The reader is left with this impression that everything is, you know, really run amiss and gone horribly awry, and that means we really need to, like, change it. There's this urgency, a sense of unease that we have gone so far astray from how we should be teaching. Okay, I'm going to get one more example in before my video is up. I've only got 15 minutes here, and I'm 11 minutes in. In addition, so just simple transition, Prose labels students brought up with inferior teaching, oh no caps, as her words, she says, it's on the second page here, the new model English graduate is the way she puts it. The new model English class graduate. So this is the label that she attaches to them. Again, just trying to give it basic context. Diction, which reduces them to mass-produced commodities, similar to the latest car or gadget. So I think she chooses that term here because she wants it to sound as though our system treats kids as though they are things. They're commodities. They are mass-produced. They're new model English students. Okay, the author's choice here helps provoke even further contempt for a system. And here again, I'm talking about, like, what is this going to do to the audience? How does this label impact them, give them new thinking or feelings about the concept she's talking about? It provokes even further contempt for a system which treats children as objects rather than individuals. Okay, so there's my last example. One quick little wrap-up here. It is through her masterful use of rhetoric. This is just like my sum up of what she's accomplished here. That Prose powerfully appeals to her audience's concerns, because that's what she's doing. She really wants to kind of sucker punch us and let us see that this is really a grave situation. She appeals to her audience's concerns for future generations. Can make that a little bit more clear. And lobbies for immediate change. And like that, I'm done. Okay, so again, guys, the takeaways here, trying to very clearly, explicitly talk about how these rhetorical choices are going to shape the reader's thinking on the subject and help pull them along and help persuade them to see her whole argument as valid. Okay, I'm trying to explain how her choices strengthen her argument by doing certain things to the audience that she's trying to reach out to and persuade. I'm trying to use, like, rather simple transitions, provide decent context for each example. I'm trying to explain each example as a choice that she's making and trying to explain, hey, there is a strategy at work, and the purpose of this strategy is very explicitly fill in the blank, the way that I've been doing here. So I really, really hope, guys, that this is useful to you. I'll post this example paragraph on Classroom along with the video itself. And as a token for those of you who did in fact watch this, you have a secret task that you can perform in order to show me you watched. Come into class over the next couple of days. On the board, my back board, write what you believe I should dress up as for Halloween. Don't tell anybody what you're doing, and sign your name next to it. That way I'll know you watched this video, and I can reward you with a very special prize. Hope this helps, Have a great night, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.